Hey guys, Shot Midget here. So I got a really nice gun to do a video on. So this is owned by QS Airsoft. So yeah, he actually got a discount, I believe, from Polar Star on this F2. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention that. But yeah, he got a discount from Polar Star. I think he's going to make videos on the engine or something on the gun and shout Polar Star out or do something with them. He didn't get a crazy deal or anything. He got like, I think it was like 300 or something like that shipped for a brand new F2, which is pretty good. But it's nothing crazy. It's not like he got it for 100 bucks or 200 or for free. So he just got a discount on it. And I believe it was around 300, maybe 350 shipped with for a brand new one. I don't know what base gun this is. It says SLR on it. I think this is, it says SLR Rifle Works LLC, Winter Garden, Florida, USA. So I don't know what body this is. I think it's a Lancer Tactical OEM because it had a Lancer Tactical hop-up and it also has the Lancer Tactical charging handle latch here. But this could just have had those parts added. So I'm not 100% sure. QS Airsoft, if you don't mind, if you're watching this, put the base gun in the description, just the name of it, or a link. But I believe it's a Lancer Tactical. It looks like a Lancer Tactical Pro line, like one of their metal bodies that's like licensed through SLR or something. Probably some conglomerate there. Let's start from the back and go to the front. So we got a Magpul stock on here. This is a CTR. I have the battery, JST, FCU back in here. It is tight. This is about the closest you're going to be able to put the stock in, which for me and him is probably where he wants it because we're kind of short. We're probably about the same height. So this is pretty good for me. He might want to pull it out one actually. But pretty nice stock. Metal buffer tube, metal body. Again, it's got the SLR trademarks. I'm not sure if that's a real gun company or what. I'm not sure what it's supposed to represent. Standard pistol grip. Got a MK18 rail system. It's looking like maybe a Daniel Defense, I would assume. MK18, RS2, Daniel Defense, yeah. So I think it's definitely Daniel Defense licensing. So it's like a legit one, but I think it's Mad Bull. So it's an airsoft one with legit markings. I don't think it's a real one. So he's got that rail there, and then he has an RVG on the front. He also has a PEC box, which is a functioning PEC box. Yeah, it does work. So functioning PEC box, it has a metal flash hider on the front, and it's got a front Troy sight on here, no back sight. It does have a replica holographic on here, and I don't think it turns on. Yeah, it's not doing anything. So it's just for looks. That's part of what airsoft is, for looks. Generally, not very often are you really going to aim down your sight. Some people like that, to be able to aim down their sight, so they use a optic riser or they don't use a lower mesh mask or something like that. So some people do like looking down their sights. I kind of like it, but it's not necessarily practical for airsoft. For airsoft, you don't have to aim down your sights. You can just sit here and just watch your BBs just fly. That is it for the externals. Internals, it has a Max hop-up, which works beautifully in this gun. I've had some problems with two other guns that I put the Max in, but in this it works flawless. It's a stock, it's a Lancer Tactical brass center barrel. I think it's a 603 because they're pretty decent. And then it's got a Lonex 50-degree bucking. The engine has a IGL, green colored, and then it also has an HPA speed trigger in silver. It is the curved one. I prefer the straight one. My brother used to have one of these for his Fusion engine back in the day. I shortened the trigger pull. He shouldn't have to worry about gluing those screws. I didn't, just in case he wants to move it around to a different gun or whatever, or maybe make the pull longer or shorter if he really wants. But you can adjust it a little bit more. I don't think those screws are going to back themselves out because I adjusted them once. I didn't turn them in, out, in, out, in, out, because when you do that, that's when they'll get loose. But there's a little bit of like thread lock or Teflon tape on those threads, so it was hard to turn for the start. So I've got it locked where it's at, and I don't think it should move. One problem with this gun, if you consider it a problem, safe is semi-auto, semi-auto is full auto, and then full auto is full auto. So there's no safety, so generally like he can just plug his hose in and he doesn't even have to flip this at all, and he's already on semi. And if he wants to do full auto, that and then go back. So you really never have to go to full auto. I mentioned this to him, he said he didn't really mind it, but I think I'm going to try to mess with the FCU to see if I can adjust it. but I don't think it's the FCU. I think it's the selector plate. We're going to try a couple mags through the gun. We're running 90 PSI, shoots 1.5 joules with a 3 roughly. I don't know what all his outdoor fields limit. I know one of them, or most outdoor fields, all pretty much for AEGs, is 400 for an AEG. For HPA, it varies. Some fields are 400 with .2s, and then you can use 3s and get like 1.7 joules. When you get into heavier BBs, that's where you can get a problem, because you can shoot like 400 with a 2 and put .4s in there and get like 2 or 2.1 joules, which is just crazy. But if you're using under 3s, I don't see a problem with running 400 with a 2, because you're maxing out at like 1.7 with a 3. So that's what I do. I always run under .3s, and that's where I kind of max out. Some fields allow 400 with a 2. But to be on the safe side, I have it set for 1.5 with a 3, which is like 380 with a .2. So that's for those fields that compensate for that joule creep with the HPA. If he goes to a field that doesn't do that, then he can go to 95 PSI and probably shoot like 395, something around there, if he wants. But I would just leave it where it's at, to be honest. I would leave it at 1.5 with a 3 and just spam the living crap out of your trigger. Enjoy the full auto, but stay at that little bit lower FPS. 1.5 with 3s is still pretty decent. If he wants to lower it, he can. 80 PSI will do about 330 with a .2. So indoor FPS, and if he needs to go any lower, he can do like 70 PSI, should shoot like 300 with a .2. But this is for outdoor use. The length of the gun, it's actually pretty short. It's a MK18, so what, like a 10 or 11 inch barrel, something like that. So it's pretty short. He could use this indoors, no problem. So you get what you pay for. So, you know, airsoft can get really expensive if you want nice stuff. Fortunately, with HPA, it's kind of buy once. It's not like you're going to buy this HPA engine once, and then 3 years later you have to replace it. Most of these HPA engines are really, really solid. A lot of people hate the V12, and I've had V12s for 4 or 5 years. So just to put that in perspective, I have 5-year-old HPA engines, V12s, that still function properly, full function. In fact, they're actually insanely good. And they're regarded as, from a lot of people, as the worst HPA engine out there. So obviously the F2 is going to be as good, if not better, on reliability and how long it lasts. So HPA is kind of buy once. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to spend $400 on an HPA engine. I get it. $400 is a lot of money to spend on something, but it's buy once, and if you have somebody like me install it, you know, somebody that knows what they're doing, and they do it properly, then it's tune once too. He shouldn't have to change anything up on this unless he goes to change the hop up or change the barrel or change the bucking, and that could affect some things. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to shooting this thing. I do have it set for 30 rounds a second. I got it out of the chrono. That's good, you know, that's a good rate of fire. His V12 was set at 25, so it's a little bit higher. I did build him a Polar Star Jack AK-74 that does 35. 327, 328, 323, 324, 324, 325, 324, 323, 322, 323, 328. Like I said, pretty consistent. In fact, 328 with a .3 is exactly 1.5 joules. So this is generally where basically most milsim events, at least local milsims, that's where this the limit for HPA generally is. Sometimes they allow 1.55, which is just slightly higher. It's like 335 with a 3, so like 10 FPS higher, 5 or 10. I do have it overhopped. Oh yeah. Okay, semi-fine. Did just fine. Let's try full auto. So if you got good mags, even decent mags, because these Elite Force mags and the mag brand, these are nothing expensive. These are like $8, maybe 10 a piece, whereas you can spend, you know, 15 on like higher end mags. So. As you can see there, you can get really, really quick follow-up shots. That's the beauty about HPA. I mean, when you're spending 300, 400, 500 on a full HPA system, not including a gun, depending on the engine, this is what you get, pretty much. You get that trigger response, you get the tunable trigger, you get all the, you know, the micro switch, adjustable rate of fire, all these sort of things that are just so awesome in airsoft. Yep, that's 30 rounds a second with a really quick semi-auto. Let's go ahead and check the PSI left in this tank so we can see efficiency. So again, we started at like 1600. It was really close to 1600. We are at 900 or so. Like the dial is just, it's not quite on the 1. So it's probably 900. So what is that? 600 PSI roughly for about 1,000 to 900 shots. That's pretty good for a 48 cubic inch tank. This is a pretty tiny tank. So yet again, me saying that the F2 is one of the most efficient engines, the most efficient dual solenoid system that you can get compared to the F2 and the V12. It is the most efficient out of the box. Even if you upgrade the V12 and the Fusion engine, probably still not quite an F2 efficiency, but I have gotten V12s and F2 or Fusion engines to be as efficient as Jacks. But again, the F2 is a little bit more efficient than the Jack, so I don't think Fusion engines or V12s have the ability to be as efficient as an F2. I don't think so, even with all the upgrades in the world. So if you have any questions about this gun or anything else you've seen in the video, let me know.